Hello and welcome to Meet Our Makers, an artist interview podcast produced in association with Beats Per Minute. I'm your host, Jeremy J. Fissette. On this episode, we get to meet Peter Silberman. Peter is best known as the frontman and lead singer and songwriter of indie rock band The Antlers. In this chat, Peter and I discuss the Antlers' discography, including their landmark album, Hospice, which served as a breakthrough for the band, as well as one of the modern touchstones of the story concept album. We also discuss their most recent album, Green to Gold, which comes after a 7-year hiatus from the band. Peter and I discuss some of what prompted that hiatus, as well as what good came of the time away. We discuss the surgery that left him unable to sing or even really hear very well, as well as his move to upstate New York, which prompted a newfound appreciation for the power of quietude. So thank you for listening, and please enjoy. This is me meeting Peter Silberman.
Things are fairly quiet right now, but I'm kind of savoring that right now, and I anticipate I'll start doing some more interviews and things of that nature as we get closer to the album coming out. But this is actually my first interview on this record.
Oh, cool.
So
Well, thank you for joining
exciting.
me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I was excited to talk to you because it has been a little while since we've heard from you, and since we've heard from the Antlers. So it's been an exciting little piece of news that you guys have an album coming out.
Oh, I'm glad people are. I'm glad you're excited. Glad people are excited. You never really know when you come out of hiding after a few years if anyone's still there, but it's very reassuring.
Yeah, that was actually, I was going to ask you that. Like, was that a fear of yours that you guys would kind of come back after it's been about 7 years, right? Since Familiars. I was wondering if you'd be nervous that like you'd come back and everyone would just be gone. I feel like that'd be something I'd be scared of.
I mean, I think that's a realistic possibility that you have to cope with throughout an artistic career, especially one that goes on for many years. I think I recognized that possibility, but I think at its core, this album and kind of the return of the project, didn't have to happen. And I think I came back into the process of making another Antlers album because I wanted to. So I tried not to load too many expectations on it as far as whether the audience would still be interested, whether people would like it. It was really just about making it for the sake of making it.
Yeah, I mean, was it strange kind of to get back into the Antlers fold after the years away?
A little bit. In the years since Familiars, I worked on a solo record and I released that, and I toured on it a bit. And so in that way, I was still active, and I was still writing songs, and I was still performing them. I was still recording. To call it the Antlers again, and everything that goes along with that, felt important to me personally. And I think I'm generally more comfortable performing and recording and writing under that name than my given name. There's something about that entity that for me allows there to be a little bit of space between me the person and me the creator.
So do you consider Antlers a band though?
Yeah, it's a band, but it's a shape-shifting band.
Yeah.
And these days I would probably classify it more as a musical project, especially in this strange time we're living in, where the notion of a band doesn't really seem to jibe with what reality, at least for a little while. The idea of a group of people getting together and playing music is not so in line with what is, safe at the
True.
time right now.
Yeah, that's
Um,
true. Did you guys record you it's basically a duo on this album. Did you guys record remotely?
no, we actually recorded the record right before the
Hmm.
pandemic hit the United States. So we were recording it over the last few years, and we finished all of our tracking around February of 2019. So Michael and I live in different places. I'm living in upstate New York, and he's living in Brooklyn, and he would come up to visit me and stay with me for several days, and we would work on music together. And then when he would leave, I would continue to work on it myself.
So it was you really like just made it like under the
Yeah,
wire.
yeah, yeah. I think a lot of things happen just under the wire.
I know, isn't that
Um,
strange how that ends up happening?
yeah, yeah, and then after the fact, everyone is working on adjusting to a new
Yeah.
reality that we're now 8 or 9 months into.
Yeah,
Crazy.
I know. And it's ongoing and for who
Yep.
knows how long. I know it must be kind of a weird time though. Does it feel like a weird time to release an album? Like just in general, plus you have the added sort of weight almost of the years since Familiars.
Um, as to the wait, it does feel like so long ago to me that I don't find myself trying to recapture whatever was going on then and beforehand with the, burst apart in Hospice and those times. That feels to me like it was very much a part of that era of the project, and this is a new era for us, I think. Um,
Yeah.
and and I think we went further than we ever expected to during those times. So at this point, um, I think we're just happy to be making music again. Um,
Yeah, and I mean you're sharing it, which is always nice, especially when there is that sort of audience that you find is still there, kind of excited that you're back.
I mean, that really is, gives puts so much energy into it, and is such a lovely thing. I feel so grateful that our audience has stuck with us, and that like a kind of new generation of fans has come about too. Like when we did the Hospice tour a couple years ago, that was a really amazing thing, was to meet people who had only recently discovered that album
Yeah.
and they were maybe you know teenagers. And so when the album first came out, they were very, very young, and just weren't aware of it.
Yeah.
Um, so it's cool to be entering this phase of a career. And as far as putting out an album in this particularly weird time in the world, yeah, I guess it's a little strange, um, but so far I'm kind of enjoying it. I think I look forward to when we get to tour someday.
Hmm.
But in the meantime, I'm grateful that I can keep writing and keep recording, and that there's so much of this process that is possible to do remotely.
I know this if this happened, 10 or 15 years ago, it'd be remarkably different for what we're capable of.
It's true.
Like I was talking with I can't remember who, but someone for this show, and she was saying how, we do live in a time where for better or worse, if you have an idea for a song, you can kind of just do it now
Mm,
and send it to your friend who's going to add all, XYZ to it, and they send it back, and it's just kind of nice. Whereas, yeah, 15 years ago, I mean, if we had a pandemic for a year and a half, it would derail it so much more.
it's true, and I think the barriers to entry are so much lower now, which is just an amazing thing for creative people.
Hmm.
You don't need a lot of money to make something that sounds good, and you don't really need much of anything to put it out there into the world, and to make it available for people to hear. That was starting 10 years ago, 15 years
Hmm.
ago, but the technology is much, much further along now.
Well, also we have Bandcamp.
We have Bandcamp. It's true.
Which is pretty much like, it feels kind of like the professional version of SoundCloud now. It's like you can just kind of like I'm a musician as well, so I feel like I know that vibe very well of like I'm gonna make something and at my own schedule and just upload it whenever I want. Like it is sort of like you say, kind of open now, which is it's sort of nice.
Yeah, I mean that's a beautiful thing when you recognize that these traditional schedules of releasing music don't really have to be in place for any reason. You can make something and release it on the same day if that's your
Yeah,
preferred way to work. That's incredible.
yeah. So there was quite a break since Familiars. You did put the solo album out, but I also read, I had already read that you did move to upstate New York. Was that part of what kind of caused the sort of step away? Like, was that what it was? Kind of like a step back?
Um, I think I think that the move definitely shifted a lot of things in my life,
Mm,
at a time where I needed a change. I wanted a change. I wanted a change of scenery, um, and I guess like a new adventure
mm,
to some extent. I had been living in Brooklyn and the city for about 10 years at that point, and some circumstances aligned that gave me an opportunity to leave, and it was a little bit before I expected to and a little bit before I was ready to, but it was just kind of a leap that at the time my intuition was telling me I needed to take.
mm,
And that shifted a lot of things. Part of that was that I did want to make this solo record, and a good friend of mine had moved up, uh, like up north around that time, and he and I were planning to work on it together. And originally, we were kind of coming up with some plan where I would come up to stay with him for a little while working on it, and then come back down to Brooklyn. Um, and ultimately, I just decided that it made more sense for me to just to make that move myself and be close to where I'm making this thing. And I think I was just feeling a pull toward nature, which has always been there in my life, but not one that I had really like listened to
mm.
so completely. And yeah, that process led to me putting down the Antlers project for a little while and trying something new, and that was just a kind of experiment that felt really necessary at the time.
Do you think it's been a beneficial thing for you to relocate?
Oh, definitely. Um,
Mm,
it wasn't the easiest transition, and I think there were, I made sacrifices along the way that that took some time to get used to, but I certainly am glad that I did it, and I think it's had just a hugely beneficial effect on my well-being and my
hmm.
happiness and my health and yeah, everything about my life. Which isn't to say that I didn't love my time in Brooklyn too, because I really did. But where I am now works for me now.
Yeah. And I feel like, am I right in remembering that I read that this new album, Green to Gold, you see sort of as like the happiest Antlers record?
Yeah, I mean, that was sort of my premise going into it.
Mm.
Was I was just curious what a happy Antlers album would sound like, and I don't even know if like happy was even the operative word there at the time. I think it was like a contented Antlers
Hmm.
album, or a kind of easy and breezy Antlers
Yeah.
album.
Well, it's
Um,
true. I mean, if you listen to Hospice or Burst Apart or even Familiars, there's sort of a like a fraught energy to them. They're very, especially Hospice, is quite sad, and there's kind of a downcast sort of, lens that I see those through. Whereas this new one does sound, like you said, kind of easy breezy. Like it's a lot lighter. There's a lot of air in it, and it does seem like that must coincide with this sort of relocation and this sort of like looking for some sort of inner peace of some sort.
Yeah, I think the search for inner peace is ongoing, but and my life is certainly not without conflict. Um,
Hmm.
but I think generally and on a day-to-day basis, my life is uh, my life is more aligned with who I uh, who I truly am, if that makes sense. I don't
Hmm.
think there is this contrast between my surroundings and who I feel like I ought to be as a person. I think the way that I'm spending a lot of my time feels very fulfilling, and I'm working very hard, but kind of joyously too. I think that
Hmm.
I think being up here and cutting out some of the noise in my life really has helped me focus and do better work and get to the heart of why I'm doing the work in the first place.
Yeah. It's also probably incidentally, uh, I would think, a better place to be quarantined
Well,
in
um,
some ways.
yeah, I mean, I think in some ways it is, and it's that's why there's been such a boom of people moving up here recently. Um,
Hmm.
I think there wasn't for me a huge change in my everyday life, uh, but part of that is because I live in a place where that's just more sparsely populated than a city or even like a densely populated suburb. It's really uh, spacious up here, and coupled with the fact that I'm just like more of a homebody by nature,
Hmm.
and that I already work from home. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it was it was a change in lifestyle that I think I had had a few years of practice for
I know.
before I
I feel like
became
there are some
mandatory.
people. I know there are some people who just were like, "Yeah, what's different?"
Well, and I think
Okay.
if you're an introvert too,
Yeah.
there's a certain um, there's something that it doesn't feel as unnatural about um, about the way that we are needing to live right now.
Yeah. So you mentioned that, and I mentioned that Green to Gold is a bit of a lighter record. While listening to it, I felt like I was picking up on a lot of themes of sort of, like I said, peace, but also kind of order and finding order and respect of the natural world. What were some of the sort of driving themes of the writing, or even the aesthetic of this album?
Well, the natural world is a really great place to start. Um, I think the idea behind this record from its inception until its completion was really about trying to trace a comparison between the rhythms of the natural world to the rhythms of change in a life, and in my case in a adult life, so to speak. And I think that was a central theme I had going into this album before I even had a sense of what it was going to be about on a more uh, real life kind of level. Um, I think I just had a sense that this was something that resonated with me and something that I thought about a lot. And being closer to nature had me observing it more, thinking about it more. I think there's a thing about being in a more like nature centric place where you see the seasons between the seasons, and
Mm,
it's not just summer, fall, winter, and spring. It's these kinds of the differences between early spring and late spring, and early winter and midwinter and late winter, and the in the summer that the leaves are different shades of green throughout, and you're constantly watching this cycle of growth and death, and things that return on an annual basis but maybe seem slightly different the following year.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was kind of where I started from, and that was what I wanted to explore. And I thought, okay, whatever is going to happen over the course of me writing this album, I'm going to see if it tracks with that. I'm going to see if this kind of hypothesis about a change in perspective and the changes that happen as you grow up and as you grow older, if they mirror what's going on in nature.
I do feel like that's reflected in the sound. I mean, especially if you compare it even to the last Antlers record or your solo record, it feels more kind of naturalistic, and it feels more of the earth almost in a weird way. There is like an airy quality to it. Even your singing throughout is very sort of light and just kind of going with the flow of the song that it's in. So yeah, I mean, I guess I'm not surprised to hear you say that, because I feel like that is evident within the music itself.
Yeah, I think there was kind of a what's the word I'm looking for? I think there was an intention musically with the record of finding not exactly the path of least resistance, but finding easy ideas, finding melodies that felt effortless, finding chord progressions that felt natural, that felt familiar, and not second guessing that too much. Not
Yeah, like
saying,
trying to find something you're not fighting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that went for my vocal delivery too. If I found that I was straining or stretching my voice, that I was that just didn't seem to fit with the style of this album and the kind of ethos of it. It was about finding these natural paths throughout it.
Yeah, because you're known as a vocalist too. I mean, it's not like the way you sing on this record is new, but you are also known as someone who can be pretty dramatic. I mean, you think of songs like Sylvia or Every Night My Teeth Are Falling Out, and you can reach these really like kind of dramatic high notes, and those are pretty much gone here. It is kind of,
Yeah.
and not in a bad way, but it is so dialed back from what maybe we used to hear from you, and I think that mirrors what you're saying your intent was quite nicely.
Yeah, I think those kinds of I don't know if you call them kind of frantic moments or histrionic kind of moments, that's not present in this album. And
yeah,
I think that is partly due to the fact that that's not really in like a type of energy that appears in my life that much anymore. Something I'm grateful for, and it's I think it just speaks to where I'm at emotionally these days, where I'm at psychologically, and the kind of people that are that I'm close with. But I also at some point during this kind of on the earlier side of working on this record was retraining my voice after having a lesion removed from my vocal cord. And so when I came back into singing, I was really intent on not pushing it too hard, but finding what my comfortable range was, and just accepting that this album was not going to be risking further damage to my vocal cords that
Yeah.
I needed to think in the long term here.
So is it now harder for you to kind of sing older material, or have you just kind of had to adjust how you perform it?
It's mostly a matter of adjusting it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I had that surgery done about a year before we went on the Hospice anniversary tour, and those
Oh,
songs
wow.
are definitely, I can't really sing them the way that I first recorded them, and I haven't even tried to in kind of a long time.
Yeah.
Because once we started touring so much, I just found that it wasn't sustainable to kind of to let loose like that every single night. Um, but that was also an acoustic tour. The anniversary tour was, and we went into it rearranging all the songs to begin with. Um, and me knowing that I needed to take care of my voice and preserve it and treat it kindly. So,
Mm.
my hope is that the the emotion behind those songs and the purpose of them isn't, that it remains intact even if I'm not wailing them. If I'm, if that they can adapt to different kind of delivery.
Is it tricky emotionally to go back over older songs? Like, are you someone who has kind of trouble revisiting them?
Um, it's harder. It's harder to revisit a song when you don't, when you aren't presently feeling anything about them,
Mm.
and that's like a matter of phases. I think. Um, I think that's harder than a song that reminds you that for me, that's harder than a song that reminds me of a difficult time.
Yeah.
Because that is at least something to grab onto emotionally and spiritually. And it may be like kind of challenging on that level, but there's something um, very satisfying about that. But when, there's a song that that you wrote at a very difficult time and you go to perform it and it doesn't feel like anything to you, I find that to be harder.
Hmm. So you go through phases with different songs.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think sometimes that just has to do with how much you've performed them.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah, I was going to ask specifically about the hospice tour because that's sort of, I know you guys, or at least you, I'm not actually 100% sure, had a couple albums before hospice, Uprooted, and um, the other one that I can't remember the name of. The
That'd be In the Attic of the
In
Universe.
the Attic.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah. So you had a couple before hospice, but hospice was kind of the one that at least that's when I learned about you. I mean, when was that? Oh nine. I think that would mean I was like 17 when Hospice came
Hmm.
out. And that was when I first heard of you. And I imagine that's when a lot of people first heard of you guys. So in some ways, as a fan, I would call it sort of a breakthrough album for you guys.
Oh,
Um,
certainly compared to what came before it. Yeah, there's no contest.
yeah, like a major shift in visibility and probably even the scale of your touring and things like that. And it is kind of one of those modern touchstones for the concept album,
Mm.
which I don't know if that's something that, like, is that something you ever regret that you made an album that's so conceptual? Because I feel like it's one of those albums that just gets endlessly sort of like, analyzed, and you probably get a lot of questions about what this means and what that means.
I don't regret it. I think that was the way that story needed to be told, and
Hmm.
I think that's part of what made it so effective, was the form that it was told in.
Hmm.
Um, I think that the ability to analyze it, whether it's someone else analyzing it or me kind of talking about analyzing it, I think is something that gives it, has allowed it to have a longer lifespan, because there is this kind of complexity to it.
Hmm.
Um, but if there's anything, if there's anything challenging about it, it's fitting those songs into a set list, let's say.
Yeah, I would imagine, yeah.
Because it's funny. I was talking to a friend of mine who they have a musical project that's very like kind of high concept, um, and each album is really its own world and its own story and its own mythology. And we were just talking about how there's couldn't really think of other art forms where a new performance by the performer or the creator is like a clip show of everything that came before it. It's like when you go to see um, a new play, you're not seeing like they're not performing highlights from all this
Yeah.
playwright's most popular works. And for whatever reason, in a lot of cases with music, that makes sense because most albums are not concept albums, but
Hmm.
it does become harder to integrate it with other songs because you're sort of cherry picking pieces of a story without context.
Yeah, it's like deciding which segments of this, 50-minute story are able to exist on their own without the context, and kind of wondering if that robs anything from them.
It's well, it's hard to say because I mean, for me, I know the story, so it's like I know
Hmm.
what's implied, even if I'm not performing all those songs. If I'm
Yeah.
playing if we're performing a song from the middle of Hospice, I know so well what comes before and after it. But trying to put myself in the perspective of somebody who doesn't know it that well, wondering if it can stand, wondering if one of those songs can make sense out of context. And um, I'm never really sure about that.
How can you be? I mean, how can
Yeah.
you be so sure? Yeah. What was it like to revisit them after 10 years? I mean, I know you hadn't completely abandoned them, but what was it like to kind of revisit the whole album after 10 years?
Um, well, just like kind of on the subject we were just talking about, there was something really nice about just playing it start to finish
Hmm.
and telling that story from beginning to end as opposed to telling it piecemeal. Um, but because I think it has a greater power that way. It's when it's complete rather than being broke up. Um,
Yeah.
but it was really such a positive experience. In some sense, we were kind of checking in to see if our audience was still with us, and that the response was a resounding yes. Um, but it was good to get back out on the road and to do it with a really simple stage show as well. And we were our show was an acoustic guitar, an electric guitar, and a snare drum, um, which was just a really in some ways uh, I don't know, it was so streamlined. That was really
Sounds
refreshing.
like a low concert.
Yeah, well, and I mean certainly that was like one of the inspirations there. Um, and there'll always be an inspiration. Um, but so on that level, it was really like refreshing to travel light, and to create what we felt like was a very full show with very few elements.
Yeah. Yeah, because I have seen you guys. I think I saw you on the Burst Apart tour, and it was very loud. It was very in your face, and there were, I think, probably four or five of you. And
Hmm.
to then transition to what from Burst Apart would probably be 7 or 8 years later into like an acoustic set. It must be sort of nice to revisit them almost from a new angle.
Yeah, it is, and I think it speaks to what we were talking about earlier about this being a shape shifting project. And
Mm,
for me, that means like the show needs to change too, and that there will be some constants there, um, but that there needs to be flexibility for it uh, to change form and to change sound. I think that's important for longevity and for us to stay like interested in it too, is to be able to reinvent it.
yeah, even for you guys, I'm sure you don't want to make the same thing over and over. I mean, I feel like that would get very much so less fulfilling every time.
I think it has diminishing returns, and
Hmm.
your tastes change as you get older too. Um, I don't really seek out face melting music as much as I used to. I still think it's amazing. I just don't seek it out.
You're not playing
And
that Lightning Bolt album every morning.
well, I didn't say that. No, I haven't listened to Lightning Bolt in kind of a while.
But probably not because you dislike that kind of music, like you're saying. It's just like where you are.
Yeah, it's where I am, you know, in my like just location, and it's where I'm at mentally these days. Is
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the time I am looking for music that is going to um, set the mood for my day, help me be
Yeah.
productive, or put me at ease, or just create a nice vibe in the house.
Yeah.
Which I know is like a slippery slope towards listening to wallpaper music all the time. But
Yeah, but that's some of that's really pretty.
yeah, yeah, and I think I want reliable music at this point. I don't want something jarring.
Yeah.
But that's just me. That's just where I'm at, and it's not like I think all music should be that way. I think that's just what I'm gravitating towards these days, and I think there can still be a lot of depth in music that doesn't scare you.
Oh, for sure. I mean, some of my favorite music is, like pin drop, quiet, like just really subtle because sometimes
Hmm.
that's just what you need. And I think there can be a lot of power. I mean, I'm thinking specifically of people like Grouper, for example,
Yeah,
just really calm but not simple and still contains a lot of power.
definitely. And
Yeah.
in the case of Grouper, so much darkness too. Something
True.
can be so like beautiful and so kind of have be so haunted as well.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's something very that's a good word for Grouper's music. Haunted, kind of crushing in a way, even though it's
Hmm.
so soft sometimes. Um, I don't particularly think Green to Gold is crushing, at least. There is that. It is kind of a light record. I've only had it, it's not even out yet, but I've only had it in my possession for like 2 days.
Hmm.
But it does seem a lot lighter than maybe the music that you guys used to make as the Antlers. So I guess that is very reflective of kind of where, like you said, where you're at in life.
Yeah.
Have you missed playing live? Like especially over the past year that you literally haven't been able to?
Um, well, I think just given where, um, how the timing has worked out with this album, I don't think I would have been playing shows during this time anyway.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't, I don't know. I think that having spent so much time on the road and having played so many shows, that when I'm not touring, um, I'm just kind of savoring it. And I know that I will end up back out there sooner or later, and there won't be any shortage of shows. So I don't find myself uh, craving it in that way. It's like
Yeah.
I know it's going to come, and I know that there will be more than enough of it. So I kind of just appreciate the time off from that.
Yeah. Though you are, I would imagine, looking forward to at least touring these new songs and seeing how they kind of live and breathe out in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I think there's something there is some aspect of when I'm not on tour, the idea of a show seems sort of mystifying to me, and sort of overwhelming too, because in my day-to-day life there aren't like 500 people staring at me.
Yeah.
um,
Thank God. Thank God.
yeah. um, so the idea of doing that feels very like incongruous to what my day-to-day is like at home. um, but I know that something happens once we actually get on tour, and once we actually play a show, that it actually feels very natural, and a lot of old muscle memory kicks in, and
Mhm.
we you know we recognize that this is something we love to do, and it hits this spot that really nothing else can.
Yeah. Do you have any ideas for what the tour will look like? Will it be more acoustic minded?
Honestly, not sure yet.
Mm.
I think Michael and I are working on, we're kind of like devising our plan a little bit. But I we're gonna get a couple musicians together to round it out, because we haven't yet figured out a way to perform as just the two of us, and I don't think we want to. It's always nice having a few people on stage. So I think as the world begins to open up, and touring is not so far off on the horizon, I think we'll be getting a band together and getting a show together. But I don't think it's going to be like the old shows, and I don't think it'll be exactly like the Hospice show either. I think maybe somewhere in between.
Yeah.
I'm definitely aiming to do I just because of stuff I've talked about my vocal issues and my hearing issues, like I have to kind of tour a little bit differently. I can't really do like a blaringly loud show. And I don't think that suits these songs anyway. So
Yeah.
it's sort of like the rest of the catalog will kind of follow suit with what the new music demands.
Yeah, but I'd imagine that's kind of fun in some way, right? Like kind of reshaping old stuff.
It is, yeah. It helps it stay fresh. And,
Yeah. For
and it's a
you
good
and for
creative
the
exercise.
audience, I assume.
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah. So before we head off, I like to ask, especially over this past very strange and kind of awful year for so many, is there any sort of music, film, or literature that you would recommend that you've kind of engaged with over this time? Or any kind of media, anything?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm just thinking of an album that I was really loving at the end of last year, by Ciolina. I don't know if
Oh
you
yeah,
had a
I
chance
saw.
to hear that one.
I haven't heard it, but I did. I liked her last one, and I was excited to see she put something else out.
Yeah, she put out a record called not Hanging a Basket, Weaving a Basket, last year, and yeah, it's just gorgeous. Really like really beautifully written songs, and just like perfectly paced as well.
We'll talk about like quiet music that still has power. I mean, that's
Oh
if it's
yeah,
anything remotely like her other album, then I would assume that falls under that category.
yeah, I would definitely say that it does, and it's got you know a gracefulness to it, and a kind of an airy quality to it. But it also it has, despite being like airy and kind of in the clouds, it also feels very substantial. Yeah, so I couldn't recommend that one enough.
I know I've been meaning to listen to that one because I know it came out pretty late in the year, and I think I kind of it got lost in the shuffle for me, but I have been wanting to revisit that. It actually, are you familiar with Sol Seppi?
Sol Seppi, I'm not familiar.
She it's the stage name of, what's her name, Sophie, I forget her last name because it's very long and very Greek. She used to play with like Sparkle Horse. She's a cellist.
Oh, cool.
But she put out an album in like 2006 that's amazing, called The Bells of 1-2. And then she kind of disappeared for a long time, and then last year she put out another album that's kind of similar to how I feel about Ciolina's work. It's very patient, deliberate, very piano and string, very kind of, like you say, kind of well paced. But from your descriptions, it sounds like something that maybe you would like. And now that I'm thinking, I would like this new Ciolina record because I like Sol Seppi's work.
Oh, awesome! I'll definitely check that out. It sounds right up my alley.
Yeah, it's called I think it's called I Am As You Are. I think that's what it's called.
Gotcha.
Yeah, very like heavenly and pretty, very pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. Check that Ciolina album out. Thank you for reminding me of that. Well, thank you so much for talking to me, Peter. It's been a real pleasure to have you.
Pleasure's all mine. This has been great.
Well, especially as someone who's been listening, to you guys, to you for years, it's always nice to kind of at least put a voice to the name, since I'm not seeing you in person. And these new songs are really lovely, and I'm excited you guys are back, and I can't wait for you guys to be out on the road.
Oh, thanks, Jeremy. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Really excited too as well. Glad you're into it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you as well. It's great talking.
Thanks. Have a good rest of your evening.
Thanks, you as well.
Bye-bye.
Bye.